Hello, Megan.
Hello, Michelle.
Welcome to the Spicy Brain podcast. Where we are navigating neurodiversity with curiosity, joy, and
radical acceptance. High kick.
Welcome to everyone who's new. We're so glad you're joining us for the first time. We hope you have as good a time in this listening as we do putting these together. And for those of you guys who are returning, we just thank you so much. I say this every time, but it never fails to be true that pretty much every podcast I hear back from people. I even heard back from our one that we did that was a little bit shorter last time, a little amuse-bouche of our podcast. So I'm going to let you talk about it. Hold on. I'm going to let you talk about it in a second, but I want to just make sure everybody knows, like, usually what we're doing is we're following some sort of book. And so we're reading it. And now Megan started reading it too, which is really exciting. So she's part of the producing side now. And we kind of like pick a piece of it. Usually like there's some kind of a story around it. We try to dig into that brain of hers or mine because we're both a little spicy. And then we try to come up with strategies, although we don't always come up with strategies, right? Because we're not professionals, right? We're just sisters. Just sisters. Yeah. So now Megan, what's your story? Okay. I know you have a story. What's the story?
I was just going to say that you were talking about the amuse-bouche of
episode. From last time. Yes.
But see, if you're listening to this episode, it'll have been 2 weeks prior because we had an episode that I had prepared for last week.
We did.
Or the week before. And then literally it was one of those moments where like I got to Wednesday night and I was like, what day is it? It's Wednesday? Oh my gosh. So
I like though how like there's some written rule that you couldn't post it Friday. Like you had to do it Thursday, and if you posted it Friday, the whole world was gonna explode.
It didn't even occur to me that I could post it on Friday.
Well, we'll ask our listeners, is Thursday a big deal for them? Because I think that's interesting. Because that could give us some flexibility too if people aren't like, oh, it has to be Thursday. But anyway, we usually do Thursday posts.
Now I'm curious though, like what did someone mentioned the amuse-bouche episode?
Yes, they did. They did. And so the idea was that you said we're trying to create a neuro-spicy friendly environment for work, right? And so this idea that you would just forget it was Wednesday has to be okay, right? Like it was hilarious. You're like, oh, I forgot it was Wednesday. And I was like, that checks. And you're like, so I did this other thing. And it was, what it was, like a couple minutes or something.
Like not even 2 minutes. It was like a minute and 15 seconds.
Yeah. It was like, hi. Yeah. So totally forgot to do the podcast. Bye. But what was funny to me though, is that I got a friend, that listens regularly was like, that was hilarious. Like made me feel so much better about my week. And I was like, yes, right? Like everyone has those weeks where you just completely space something. But obviously if you've got, brain-based disorders, it can be more challenging, right? So anyone can relate to it.
Yeah. And I think this is why like I want to be so transparent about it, and like why it was 12:13 in the morning on Thursday, and I normally have it posted at 12:30 on Thursdays in the morning. And so like I wanted to be transparent because like I don't have this all figured out. We don't have this all figured out. And whenever I listen to stuff and people talking, I feel like they have it all figured out. And it's like, we just don't see the times that they've like totally had a meltdown. And I was like, you know what? It's fine. I'm just going to let everybody else know that I totally had one of those meltdowns, and that's fine. I don't even have like, cause there's some weeks like where, we just know like, hey, we didn't have time to podcast itself. And like, so we, do a replay, and we're very transparent about that. No, guys, it was not at all that. It was literally just, I forgot. So my hope was that it would help others to not feel so bad about their week if something was going on, and that was my hope, and I was trying to be kind for myself too. So.
Yeah, I loved it, and I think I just I don't remember. I think I heart emoji you back or something because I saw it like early in the morning, and I knew there was no way you were up, but but I was just laughing. I was like, that's fine. That's good. You know, like, because the other thing too is, I mean, it's a friend had said, a different friend had said, like, you have like so many episodes. What do you know, this is crazy.
I know.
And I said, yeah, I mean, and she's like, is it something you really want to do? Like, is it really for you, or is it just like for your sister? And I said, you know, it's funny when you start something, I don't think you know what it's going to be. I mean, no matter what, you know, if you start your own business, you start, like, you might have an idea, but you don't know where it's going to go necessarily. And I remember reading this book about like how to podcast or something. And, you know, one of the books I was kind of getting as we were starting this, and she was like, you got to pick something that you can be committed to for a year or more.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, the only thing I've ever been, you know, that committed to besides like my son, you know, is you, right? Like learning about you and learning about your, because I've always found your brain fascinating. I was always like, what is happening in there? Like, I don't get it, you know, and now it's like, I do get it more.
Yeah.
And it helps me also with my son, right? But it's, and me and just my friends and people I know that, you know, like so many people have a little spiciness to them, whether it's, you know, super caliente or just, you know, kind of mild spicy, mild salsa.
Yeah.
You know, everyone I think that I know, generally speaking, has a little something going on. So, but for people who have like severe things going on, like you have, where it's, you know, that's the part I'm learning more about understanding that that's not something that's going to change. There's nothing that needs to be, it just needs to be understood and be curious about, as opposed to saying like, you know, you need to be fixed in some way, right? It's like more just what supports do you need, how to be curious. So this book that we're heading into, and we just started it, but we've already spent 2 episodes on it, or 3 episodes on it, because it's already meaty, and we're on chapter 1. So I think this is going to be one of those books where we're on it for a little bit. But so the book that we're getting into right now is called The Essential Guide to Raising Complex Kids by Elaine Taylor-Klaus. Is that right, Meg?
I think so.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll go with that.
Yeah. And so this was a request to do a book about parenting, but your spin on it I liked. I thought maybe you could talk about why you also wanted to do this book, Meg, because, you know, you're not a traditional parent, but you do parent.
I do parent. Yeah, but I think that all of us, like, once we hit 18, we have to start parenting ourselves. And we finally kind of came to this. You had asked me this question about adulting, and it hit me like, well, adulting is just parenting yourself, because adulting is just all the things that your parents helped you do. And as a person with a brain-based disorder, I have to figure out how I'm going to do all of that, and how I'm going to be a parent for myself. Not a parent, not a parent. I'm going to be a parent. Total rabbit hole just went down.
Oh,
here.
did you
I'm going to
just
be a
do
parent
it
for
like
myself.
a grammar thing and like? Okay, got it. So APP, a parent, versus like
is it a peep?
Dad?
Is it 2 P's? Yep. Okay, I'm going to stop. Yep. That's exactly right. So
the ADHD is strong in you this day, I believe, right?
It
is that
is.
true?
Very strong in me today. Oh my gosh.
No
yes.
worries.
And
no worries.
And so I think, like, for anybody who is dealing with any kind of complex condition, being able to figure out how do you respond to it as an adult, and all of these tricks and tips that they talk about for parents is exactly the kind of same thing that I think that we need to do. Because even if you have like I had a mother who was able to emotionally be there for me and help me and actually understand it. And I got permission, just so we can be very clear about this, but my husband was just diagnosed with severe ADHD. And he said I could talk about it on the podcast. And so it's been interesting conversations with him, which he said, you know, I thought I'd feel relieved, and it was much more complicated than that, because now he's looking back and saying, gosh, who could I have been if I had had resources? Who could I have become? Like, what could I have, all these different questions, these what ifs, which is like exactly the place that he's supposed to be right now. And so in this, it's like helping me to all of these conversations that we've had, you and I, not just with this book, but with all of the ADHD stuff, has really helped me to be a much more kind and compassionate spouse, and say to him like, hey, this is just your brain. Like, that's just what happens. And like, learning about his differences, and it's just been a really interesting process. And I think that like this whole parenting yourself, I was fortunate enough to have a diagnosis at the age of 14 or 15. And yet I still have to figure, I still have so much societal crap that's been thrown on me. So for somebody who's in his 40s getting a diagnosis, he has no frame of reference. So like a lot of it is just really he's going to have to reparent himself, has to learn how he's going to help himself live in the world and know, okay, I have to start eating more protein for my brain. And I have to start, like setting timers and like all these things that like he just didn't do before. And it's all the stuff that you and I have been talking about. So I think that as we're going through this, just because it says it's for parenting, this is actually even more important for anybody who's a new diagnosis, or like me, who's just like trying to still figure it out. Cause I don't think you really ever do figure it out. Cause unfortunately your brain changes depending on the season. So there's always an opportunity to reparent and like as parents know, the kids don't stay the same. They have different milestones as they grow up. So it's, I think, a beautiful way for us to kind of look at both the parenting side and the parenting yourself side.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I know that this chapter really talks about the different challenge areas. So we talked the last one about emotion management, and emotional management being a challenge area for people, for families or for people in general. And this is like anybody who's got a complex condition, right? So she talks about brain-based beyond just ADHD. So autism and depression and anxiety and all these other brain-based disorders, and in addition to metabolic disorders. And that I want to touch on that at some point, because you said something very kind, which I said, well, I think you have a more complex situation sometimes than I do. Mine was more about the different food allergies and whatever. And I really liked that you were like, but you had to change your whole life when you found that out. And I think that is true when somebody's newly diagnosed. It feels like that. Even if it's not your whole life, there's so many things that are just routine that you need to shift or change, and how much energy that takes, and how thoughtful you have to be about it.
And I think with the complex condition, I really appreciate that phrase of complex condition, because to me, what it means is that our society is very neurotypical and has been built on typicality. Yeah. It's been built on that.
Sure.
If that's a word, I don't know. But because of that, if you stray in any way, in the slightest amount, if you are other, if you are odd, in this neurotypical world, then it's gonna be hard for you. It's complicated, right? Because there's a lot of it's complex. There's a lot of different ways that you can be other. So we have rules around eating in our society. We have rules about walking in our society. We have rules about, behavior. And so all of these things makes absolute sense why somebody finding out that, they have an allergy to food, or if they are anaphylactic, or, any of that stuff, it's a challenge, because we don't just, it's just not built into our society yet. And I think we're slowly working our way there, but we have a lot of work to do.
And it's chronic. That's the other thing. It's that it's not going to end.
Yep.
And so if it's not going to end, then there's also kind of a grieving period, right? That you have to kind of understand that. I mean, I remember having to go gluten-free and dairy-free, and again, saying having to is probably the wrong thing. Like, I chose to because it was so awful, right? When I didn't. But
no,
at the same time, but I had to do it. I mean, otherwise I was going to be really ill.
Well, you were bawling over in pain for like 8 hours, Michelle. I mean, that's...
Yeah, that's
you
right.
Had
I guess
to.
That's I think it's even that language of figuring out how to say that for myself. But the thing I wanted to bring up, though, is just, it's not going to change. And so you have to be able to grieve what you lost. right?
Yep.
Because when you lose food and you have food sensitivities, or you are, celiac or whatever it is, there's so much in our society that's communal around eating.
Mm-hmm.
And it can feel like you lose your community and you lose your ability to just kind of go with the flow, and everything's
Yep.
like those social niceties. And I think that's interesting because I
Yes.
think there's similarness with what I hear you talk about sometimes of like, I don't know what the rule is. So the social niceties, I'm not always doing the quote unquote right way. So
Mm-hmm.
whether it's because you have some metabolic thing that's taking you out, or you have something that's brain based that's taking you as being other,
Mm.
it can be really just a lot to process and figure out who you are,
Mm-hmm.
even with these new understandings about your needs.
I want to touch on a word you said, grieve.
Mm.
And I think that I, so Brian is in that point of like grieving that. And I remember
Mm-hmm.
so specifically the moment in my life. Like I remember exactly where I was. I was in a pool in
Mm.
Tucson, Arizona.
Mm.
And I was, listening to something on my headphones, swimming. And Lin-Manuel Miranda had just like really blown up with Hamilton and
Mm.
just did this really cool stuff. And like it was all the kind of things that like I had ultimately seen for myself, like the stuff that I wanted to do. And then I
Mm.
found out that he was younger than me. And I just like
Mm.
had this moment of like just grief of like, because I was
Mm.
learning about him and I saw like, oh, he had this like, where he came from and his family was so supportive. And, he didn't,
Mhm.
from what he said, at least publicly, it doesn't seem like he had challenges in other areas, but he had people who were just really supportive of his creativity and like just
Mhm.
thriving, pushing him to that way. And I just remember feeling such grief of like,
Mm.
gosh, the life I could have had I not had all this PTSD around who I was and, where I was. And like, just, because I'm in my 30s or whatever, like, late 30s. And I'm just like, what? This is rough. And so the reason I say this is because I think I wonder if Elaine will talk about this in her book about allowing for grief and then allowing for the
Mm.
parents to say, you know what, this isn't the kid I thought I was going to have. And it's
Mhm.
okay to feel that grief.
She does talk about it towards the end of the first chapter a little bit. She brings up a point of like this oftentimes for people with complex kids, it's not the kid you thought you were going to have.
Yeah.
Right. And so you're dealing with that. But the grief part of it, I don't know if she's going to get into that particular bit. But you're right. It's like you just have to grieve really it's a fantasy, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest, right? When you're pregnant, like you're fantasizing usually, or when you're waiting for that kid to come to you in whatever way they come, you're hoping for something. And there's a reality that doesn't get met,
Well, and
and sometimes it's really severe. I mean, it's like much more complex than you thought it was going to be.
yeah. And like that's the same thing with being a kid. Like you fantasize about your life and like what it could look like. I was
Mm-hmm.
going to be a famous movie star to the point like where I actually changed my signature to like be able to sign, autographs quickly, right? Like I had this fantasy about
Yeah.
what my life was going to be and I had to grieve the fact that that fantasy wasn't
Yeah.
going to come true. And
Yeah.
in grieving, I think I could see that there being a double-edged sword for parents where, you guys are just always told you should love the child you have and like it should always be perfect and always be amazing. And it's okay to grieve the fact that you had a fantasy so that you can
Yeah.
then move on to
Yeah.
reality.
Yeah, because otherwise you're kind of never acknowledging, but always kind of keeping it pent up. And like
Yes.
I remember saying this, and I remember other moms just completely being shocked. And this is a little bit me wearing my heart on my sleeve a little too much sometimes, right? I just say what's ever in my head, oftentimes, and I was just like, oh, it is hell. Like it is hell having this kid, like right now. And I remember, like I would tell Josh now, I said it was really hard, but you're like at the same time, you're the coolest person I know,
Yeah. It
and
was worth it.
so it was worth it. But it's also that idea of like with other parents being real about what is happening. Because I mean, I would get all these people, and it's like, even when you're talking to them, it feels like they're posting on Instagram or Facebook or something. Like, it's like, let's just be real. Like, this day was really rough.
Yeah.
And this was a mess. This was like nothing I wanted. The worst came out in me. The worst came out in them. We just lost it, whatever. And now we're having to repair. And I remember, you know, a therapist telling me at one point, like, you just have to be good enough. You just like good enough parenting, like good enough. Like, you don't have to be the best at every single aspect, but you have to be good enough. And part of being good enough, I think, is sort of staying connected. And she talks about that in chapter 2 a little bit more, of staying connected. And one of the reasons it's hard is because there's all these tasks that we as parents and in life, right, that you're having to do. And so the it's kind of interesting. The second challenge area, she says, is thinking about organization. So I thought I'd bring this up because I think, you know, you think you're going to have this life, whether it's in your adult life or whatever, and you're going to like have your little perfect little Martha Stewart. I don't know who's the current person, you know, Gwyneth Paltrow, whatever, you know, person's
some
like
influencer.
Everything's so neat. The organization store, perfect life, Pinterest, perfect. And she talks about like that. You have a kid, or you yourself maybe are leaving a trail behind that don't seem to notice. You don't put things away. You're oblivious to the clutter. This is funny. Struggle with planning, prioritizing, time management, or procrastination. Usually the room is a wreck. Backpack is overflowing. Don't follow directions well, or constantly losing or forgetting things. Okay, I just want to talk about water bottles for a second. I have a trick, by the way. I have one suggestion for people in a little bit about water bottles. If you're in one of those schools like Josh was, where it was like, God forbid you have a plastic water bottle because, you know, the environment. And again, all about the environment. Yeah. I think when you have somebody who has complex issues, maybe that's not the sword we have to fall on. Okay, but secondly, I'll tell you about my suggestion in just a minute. Okay, and then struggle to manage your possessions and take care of their responsibilities. So I wanted to talk about this and see what you thought when I said those things. And then I'll give my little suggestion about water bottles after we discuss. So tell me about that with you and your ADHD husband. How's that organization piece? You guys are different though, right? You have different diagnoses, different types of ADHD.
Yeah, no, and that's, I mean, guys, okay, if you live with somebody who also has a complex condition or some brain-based disorder, like, it's like the best thing and potentially the worst thing. Cause like, it's great. Cause like I told him, that was the one thing I said when the night that he found out. I was like, if there's ever going to be a home that you were living in to find this out, like, this is the home that's here to help you and here to help little Brian get through this, you know?
Yeah. Well, let me tell you about little Josh. Okay. So this is real. And again, he did give me permission. You have been given permission to talk. So thank you, gentlemen, for letting us discuss
Yeah. Thank you, gentlemen, for letting us talk about you.
Yeah. And then, you know, we can talk about ourselves as well. But so I remember Josh going to this school, and they were very particular. You know, it was like all the moms and everybody was like, we pack the lunch and there's no Lunchables, right? Like, you do the thing and it's all freshly made or whatever, and all this kind of stuff. So all the shoulds. And I think I had bought my 20th water bottle.
That's right.
Okay. Because you were not supposed to bring plastic water bottles to this school. So we had the metal ones or whatever. And it was the 20th one. And I'm like, these things are not cheap, right? And I'm just like counting it up, and I'm like, well, he can either go to college or I can get him a water bottle. Like, it's one of the two. I don't know. So I finally realized this trick, which I love, which I go to thrift shops. But actually, I will tell you this, at the U of A, the children that are at the U of A just leave water bottles everywhere. University students, they leave water bottles everywhere. So between that and thrift shops, I would just go and get like the $1 one, and I would sanitize it, and then I would buy new lids. So if you feel like you still wanted to fit in or couldn't allow, your kid can't actually walk on campus with plastic for some reason. Don't go to that school, first of all. But secondly, but I was like, it was great because I could still like reduce, reuse, recycle, but just do it in a much cheaper way. Like, the half off at the thrift store, I could buy them for like $2 each and get them and then just get new lids. So
well, and there's so many there. That's smart.
So many.
And then also like, just you're picking up the other ADHD kids' water bottle at the university. So you're all recycling together.
Well, and, I teach a lower level math class, and I really do feel like so many of them are just undiagnosed.
Yeah.
Because like there's just an endless set of things. I tell them, I'm like, listen, why do I sticker their calculators in my class? Because I have over 2,000 students. And I'm like, why do I sticker I'm like, because it would be a retirement plan otherwise. Honestly, I could sell those TI-84s for like $50 a pop and retire in, no time. So I try to sticker them, get them back to them. But anyway.
That's funny.
So when you
I was also just thinking like you could also get them one of those Camelback backpacks, like where it's got like the water bladder inside of it. Yes. So then it's like, but he probably would fit the backpack too. But like, at least it would be there. I guess, we can't use the backpack during class. Okay, never mind.
The only thing I know he has never lost is his phone. So I do know that there is something for ADHD people.
Okay.
If you if you want it, like some people, right? Like
I think it's honestly, I literally think it's like, it's an everyday thing. It's like if you're so the phone, you have to use it all the time. And the water, it's hard to remember to use it all the time. And so like the phone, it's addictive. And so then it's easier to remember it. But even then I still forget my phone and I'm like, I gotta go find it, So it's a tough
I'm just saying for him, that's the only thing. As a teenager going to school, he has not lost that. So that's
amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty good. But and he's gotten better. I think he kind of is of the idea of like, I'm going to have very few things. That's his whole strategy in life is like, I own as few things as possible so that I don't have to
manage them all. That's what I'm learning is the thing. When you read this to me, Michelle.
Yeah, what'd you think? Or think about or remember?
I just remembered this morning.
Okay. I like it. Let's go with that.
I don't have to think back very far. So how much? Yeah, I will share. So okay. I was gonna make pancakes for. Oh no, it's not bathroom. No, we've moved past that, Michelle. That was about the bathroom.
Now it's the kitchen.
I've been able to talk all about that, and now it's the kitchen. So I was making pancakes this morning. Mm-hmm. I make these protein pancakes, and I woke up and I was just like, I've been doing this thing now, like where my PT is having me stretch in the morning to help me get out of bed, which has actually been very helpful. Nice. So I got out of bed, but like I just felt like I'm slugging through the day. I was like, the ADHD is strong. My eyes were, they were heavy. My body was moving super slow. And I was like, okay, so this is what happens.
You find it physically hard to move your arms and your legs? Like, do you feel like your legs feel heavy ever?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, my whole body feels heavy. Like it's, and it's interesting because like Brian was saying that like when he's in the middle of it all, I think he said his like voice, like there's another, I have to ask him, I forget now, but there's another part of him that feels heavy. And then I'm like, his eyes, like his reading and his comprehension, like all feels really heavy. Like he's slugging through things. I'm like, that's how my physical body feels. I feel like it's interesting because he's a visual learner and I'm a kinesthetic learner. So like, I wonder if there's some sort of a thing, like, if you're ADHD and you're an auditory learner, like, do you find that your verbal capacity is harder? I don't know. Just a theory I have in my head.
Sure.
So I literally walk into the kitchen. I grab the Bisquick, protein powder, whatever it is. I grab the container. I put it down. I go to get the stuff. I pull a few more things out and I was like, where did I put the Bisquick container? And I'm saying Bisquick. It's not actually Bisquick. It's like Kodiak, which is a great one. Kodiak protein powder, phenomenal, and you can make them. But I was like, where did I put the powder? So then I find the powder, and I'm like, okay, I need to add. And I'm trying to read through it, and I was like, I need to add 2 cups. Wait a second, that one's for the flapjack. That one's for the waffles. No, I need to look at this other side for the flapjacks. So I was like, that one's only 1. Cause I was like,
flapjacks? Like when did they become flapjack?
I don't know.
Okay, all right.
They call them flapjacks.
I want to know, people. Are you guys flapjack or pancake people? Like, I think it's pancake.
It's pancake, anyway. But I think it's because it's the brand is Kodiak, so it kind of feels very rugged. They're like, we're flapjacks. You're gonna have a flapjack.
You know, have a flapjack.
All right. So there's 2 different. They're like right next to each other, but there's 2 different recipes. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I have to add oil. I haven't been adding oil this whole time. And I was like, oh, Megan, that's for the waffles. Okay, look over to the right side. So I get to the right one, and then you're supposed to add 3/4 cups of water. And then I'm adding all the mixing, putting it all together, and I'm like, and I use soy milk powder. And so then you put the soy milk powder in, and then you also add the water for that. And I was like, oh, I'll just add the amount for the soy milk powder because that's what I'm supposed to do. So I add a cup of water. And I'm stirring it all, and I like, why are the pancakes so thin? Like, I don't understand what just happened. And I like realized that I put the soy milk powder recipe on the instead of the flapjack. So I like had too much. So I was like, well, I guess I could just add more powder to see if that helps it out. So I did. You know, I told Brian and Mom, like, the ADHD is strong this morning. And I just kept like, there was this trail left behind of everything I had. Like, and I mean, just, it was a mess. And then I finally did get everything settled up. And I did find though, but fun fact, if you do ever make those Kodiak powder ones, like add a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon and a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. Delicious. Amazing.
Oh my God.
So that was the start. And then it was so interesting as like, cause I had taken my meds, like, I think I took my Adderall like right before I started cooking. Cause I have to wait for another medication that takes an hour to be in my system. Yeah. So I take it right before I start cooking. We get through eating, and like probably like right at the very end of eating, Mom says to me, something just shifted in you. Like, I can see it. And I was like, I think the medication has taken over. And like, it was like, and now I am going, and I'm talking really fast, and like, hey guys, how you doing? What's going on, Michelle? I'm calling you. Like, my impulse control was really hard, and I was talking to you, and I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta stop. Okay, you were saying something. Okay, I'm just gonna be. I just was like, then I was on. So I was like, the ADHD was strong. Thank God Brian cleaned up. That's all I'm gonna say.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I think when you think about organization, there's so many places that affects, right? And I mean, I always think I had to put together like a little entryway in my front area just to like have like, this is where everybody puts their stuff, at least, because otherwise it was just, I could never find anything. Yeah. And anytime Josh is out of his routine, so he went early to go have breakfast with a friend before school. And I called him and he goes, I know, I forgot my backpack. You know, so I'm like, so he's 18, right? And I'm like driving his backpack to school and meeting him out front, you know, because I knew he needed it for a test or something. Yeah. And there could have been a point in my life where I think I would have said like, well, tougho, you're not being responsible, blah, blah, blah. You're 18. You should know this already. And now I'm just like, well, that's your brain. Let me just see if I can drive it. I mean, I work just like a block away. So it wasn't a big deal either. But so it's interesting as she gets further. I'm kind of curious, and other people's feelings. I know that some parents are really like, no, I'm never gonna, you know, help somebody out with that, or that's their responsibility. So there's like, I think there could be a lot of like, as I'm saying things I've done, we might have really different ideas about how it works. And what I would say that she says sort of in chapter 2, and I would say this to anyone listening, whether it's you're parenting yourself or your kid, you're the only one who knows your family and yourself and your circumstances, and you're the only one who can actually make those decisions and have them be correct for your family and yourself. And so no matter what I'm saying I might have tried, or Megan says she might have tried or done, please know, like, this in any expert, and Elaine says this in the book, she's like, any expert is only as good as it works for your family, basically.
Yeah.
And for your situation. So anyway, so I just wanted to put that out there, because people have a lot of feelings about, is it right, is it not right?
Well,
and I just am gonna say, I could never know for anyone else. I can only know for myself, and I can only know for myself sometimes based on my observations of what went well or didn't go well once I did it.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah.
Because it's, I mean, any of these things are just a prescription. I mean, they're not, sorry, they're not a prescription. They're just a suggestion. Yeah. And I think it's easy to take them as a prescription. And what I do find interesting about this idea of like forgetting the backpack is that it kind of reminds me again of what we had talked about when it comes to like, you know, the questions to ask yourself or ask your kid the day of, or the, you know, like, are you in pain? Is your routine changing? You know, is there was another one, I think it was pain. How'd you sleep? Are you in pain? And is your routine changing, or has it changed? Because like, all of those things like help, you know, as you start thinking about it, I think like, okay, hey, my routine's going to change today because I'm going to go and meet somebody. So I have to then be prepared for that. And maybe don't, you know, book myself with like a whole bunch of appointments. Like I went and saw Jenza. I had a green task, everybody.
Oh, green task. That's like a few episodes back, but those are great, like grounding, life affirming tasks. And we've figured out that Jenza, one of your very good friends, is one of those for you, right?
Yes. And she was so cute because she listens to the podcast as well. And so the thing about the life affirming tasks is that they can be really challenging to get started.
Yeah.
And so she was prepared. She's like, because I told her, I was like, can I tell you, after we already were together, I was like, I was there. I had one moment this afternoon where I like had a twinge of, oh, I got to go do this. And I don't know. And then I said, no, it's Jenza. It's a green task. It's going to be amazing. And then that was it. It was like a very short lived moment. And then she says to me, oh, I had an entire list of things. I was prepared for you to send a text message that said that you were, you know, you couldn't do it. And I had a million different responses to make sure that we got you there. Like, that's a good friend.
Yes. Like, just accepts who you are. I love that so much.
So
I love
cool.
that. I think that's, you know, one of the things that, as we'll go through these other areas, but if organization is an area, in chapter 2, and she says kind of go through the book however you want. So I started listening ahead, and she said pick one area or one thing to start with. And so, you know, kind of figuring out is like, what's the one thing? And so these challenge areas are sort of there to kind of help us, I think, figure out like what is the most important piece of it for us. And sometimes it's really about whatever it is that's self-care for us, either as parents or as parenting our inner child. It's like, what is the thing that's going to be the lowest hanging fruit, that's sort of maybe easiest or most pressing, because you can't fix everything at once. And fix is the wrong word, but you can't address everything at once. So I chose not to fall on my sword about his backpack, because he had done it and gotten himself, he's like now waking himself up, getting himself to school, all these things that were actually quite difficult for him up through last year or junior year. Yeah. So he's senior now. He's taken on that responsibility more, and he's doing that more. So I knew that day was a very unusual day for him. And so, and there were big consequences.
And he knew he forgot his backpack. That's the other thing. He called and was like, he called in reinforcements. He called in for help because like that's
he didn't. He was nervous too. So that's the work we still have to do.
He was nervous to tell you?
Yeah, I called him not because I didn't know he had left his backpack. I just saw that there was a paper that I knew he needed for like a math class. And I was like, that's weird. I thought, you know, he worked really, really hard on it. So he spent 2 hours on it the day before. So I knew he needed it. And I thought, oh, that's strange. But I'm like, oh, yeah, he got up at 6 or 5:30 or whatever it was to go meet this friend. And so I said that's why I called, and he goes, I know, I left my backpack. It'll be fine. I'm okay. I've already like he'd already like panicked about it and like told himself it was all going to be okay and that he wasn't going to beat himself up about it, which I liked that part.
That's good.
That was really cool to hear that he wasn't like stressing. And I said, well, why don't I still bring it? And he goes, well, and I said, you're just going to have to like, cause it's actually hard for them to leave campus once they've gotten on, like monitors are very like crazy about it. So anyway, but he goes, no, that sounds right. Yeah, you should probably bring it. And I said, okay. So it was good to see he didn't beat himself up for too long anyway about it.
Yeah. Well, and that's something as a person who's going to parent themselves, it's really important to be able to ask for help. And it's hard, right?
It's hard.
Like in his mind, he's having that moment of panic and like he has to do it all himself because that's what we've been told. Not you told him this, okay? This is just in general. But like we've been told as society that you have to
You're 18.
You have to deal with this on your own. Yeah, this is your problem. You've made the problem and you can fix it. You have the solution within you. And, that happened. I remember that happened with Brian once, like where he forgot his cap, like, in the military, like forgot part of his uniform or like it fell out of his pants. Something happened with it.
Something happened.
And, in the past, when we first got together, he would have driven all the way back home and panicked and freaked out. And so I remember telling him like, hey, you've got me here. Like you got a friend in me. He's like, so, and I remember there was one day where he actually called me. He's like, hey, I really need your help. I left this cap. I left something. Could you come and bring it to me? It was huge. Big deal. And I was like, that's an adulting moment. That is good job parenting yourself.
Yes.
Like it's just a huge thing to ask for help. And it's not like, it doesn't seem like it's a big deal because it's not a big deal to me to help him out. But for him, it probably was a big deal. I knew it was a big deal for him to actually physically call and have to rely on me.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And not Michelle, and to like hope that you're not going to get yelled at and or somebody going, ugh, oh God, again.
Once again, Megan.
How many times? Yeah. Right.
Come on, Megan. And, Michelle, I'm just curious because like I know that challenge 3 is about home and school. Yeah. And what I found interesting is that like she says that you're not really reaching your potential despite all the efforts to help them get organized. And so I feel like it ties into challenge 2 with the whole organizational, like getting started, having like asking for last minute help, dreading your projects like that. I feel like the whole organizational part of it does kind of fit in with this.
Absolutely.
They're two separate things, obviously, because like I love the fact that she says that your child is intelligent and maybe even gifted, but still struggles with school. And this is what I've told Brian. I'm like, Brian, you are so intelligent. You are so gifted. Like the man is a genius and yes, has struggled with school, just like I struggled with school. So I just thought like
I remember a teacher saying that about Josh. Like, I'm surprised. I would have thought his grade would have been higher. And it's like these kinds of things where like they just, I didn't realize, like they didn't realize how much he had forgotten to turn in or whatever. And I think for those of us who now have to parent with grades being posted all the time, if you have a kid who has ADHD, it was hilarious to me. I got his report card. He had it printed off and they were trying to say like what he still needed to graduate or whatever. And so I hadn't seen it all in one page. They don't send it anymore. It's all online. So I saw it all in 2 pages and it was like A, B, A, B, A, B. Like good student, right? Like, okay, great. A, B student. And I was almost shocked because that was not the experience I had when helping him to get to that point, right? Like he has those A's and B's because he's smart enough to have those A's and B's. But the reason he has those A's and B's is because I was on his arse for many years. Yeah. And, trying to make sure like, hey, did you go turn that in? Did you go to talk to your teacher? Let's make sure to And so his grades actually, if they gave me the report card of what they were over time, I would love to see that because it was like A, D, C, F, B, A, 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 A, deep. I mean, it was
Yeah.
like, it felt
Depending
like this
on
roller coaster for every
Yeah.
single subject too. It wasn't just one. And even if he loved the subject, it didn't matter. It was just his brain didn't allow him to remember to turn stuff in. Or maybe he would get distracted in class, and so he would get half of something done, right?
Yeah.
Because he just was talking and enjoying, you know, I mean, he's got great friends and he's a social human, which is amazing, right? Not everyone has that, you know, that ability.
Maybe
But
the ADHD is strong and like,
Yeah.
you're making pancakes, but then like you can't remember where you put the batter.
Yes.
You know?
Okay, I'm going to
And-
out myself. I had a
Oh.
little tiny ADHD moment. Okay.
What?
And I know. And it's so funny because I think you're saying your brain, different seasons of life, right? So some friends of mine and I were talking and you know, there's the whole discussion of perimenopause. I went into full menopause when I was 45 and I'm 51 now. So I've been in menopause long time, right?
Yeah.
And your brain does change, right? And they know this physiologically is true. So the other morning I was so tired. I don't know what happened. I just didn't sleep well, right? And I go and I like am in the kitchen. I'm getting breakfast going for Josh and I'm like, whatever, because that's my little thing I do pretty much most mornings for him. And I was like, okay. And I went and did the coffee thing and whatever. And I go back to the coffee pot and I'm like, there's no coffee in it. And I was like, that's weird. And then I like open up. I'm like, oh, I must have forgot to put water in. Right. Or
Yeah.
something like something just you're in the middle.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but it's steaming. Like the coffee, like the grounds are, and I'm like, I don't know. So I just like start again because I'm like, I don't know what happened, whatever. It was weird. It was like, oh, there's like a ghost that took the coffee or something, right? That's how it felt. And so I go and I've been working a lot of hours, like an insane number of hours the last couple of months. So anyway, I go and I like fill the container because I always take my coffee with me to work. And I'm there and I go walk by the front door and I'm like, oh my God, there's the other cup of coffee. I walk into work, double fisted, 2 containers.
Like, I'm
of
definitely
coffee.
going to need 2 of them.
I obviously need both. Like, it was the funniest thing. I'm like, oh my God, is this how it feels for Megan? Like all the time? I mean, that would be so horrible.
Yes.
So I blame it on my menopause brain and lack of sleep, but I don't know. I mean, yeah.
Well, they say that brain fog is a huge part of menopause, and I'm in peri, and it's like, come on, I have ADHD and I have perimenopause. Come on,
you're not supposed to have all the complex issues, right?
It's not fair.
Oh my
well,
gosh.
and so going just to like to finish up with the this idea of like how one of the challenge areas is home and school. I think it's an interesting thing to think about where it says school reports they're constantly saying that they could be doing better if only they could just try harder. You know, only if they could just pay attention.
Yeah.
You know, or if they could just turn their work in as if that was easy.
As if it was easy for me that morning to figure out that I had already made the cup of coffee, right?
Right?
Like, yeah, that wasn't easy that morning at all. No, it was definitely not that.
You know, or it's easy to remember like I did the right assignment. Like I totally like edited one of our podcasts that was actually supposed to be for like 2 days. Like I edited the wrong podcast.
Yeah.
And I did the wrong homework. And so I was actually kind of grateful for myself the following week. But like during the moment I was like, are you kidding me? I have to do this again, girl.
Because you have to work twice as hard to get sometimes to the same point. And I think also for people who have chronic metabolic stuff, you know, I mean, if you get glutened, right? And you're not feeling well, or maybe your sugars are off, you know, diabetic, like any of these things.
And you have to check you have to ask every time. You have to say, is there butter? Do they use it in the pan? Or, you know, is there cross-contamination? I mean, it's just, it's every single time. And, you know, that was the thing that really hit Brian, is that the lady who diagnosed him said, you know, you have a very severe case of ADHD. And the fact that you have made it through a 20-year career in the military just tells me how intelligent you are. And what it also tells me is that you had to work twice as hard as everyone around you.
Yeah.
And it's true. Like you have to work twice as hard. It
And
is,
as a parent who parents a complex child, or if you're, parenting yourself, like, your inner child, like you have to work twice as hard.
yeah.
Your
And
parenting journey is just different. It's just harder.
yeah.
And it just takes more effort. And it's not that it's not as satisfying, or it can't be as, interesting and whatever, but it is harder. And you need
Yeah.
people around you that understand that. That's the one thing I will say has been always been so grateful for you in my parenting journey, because you've always understood Josh.
Yeah.
Even before I did, in terms of this, right? In terms of the chronic brain-based disorder that he was always going to have to deal with. And I'm still learning how to parent for it, but I definitely I never felt completely alone. I think I said that in a blog I wrote, like that I was doing it alone. And I kind of realized later that wasn't completely true. I think the part that was hard is that you weren't necessarily going through the same developmental stages with a child as I was. So there was that aspect. But in terms of like feeling that, someone was there to say like, yes, this is normal, or this is something that, makes sense, but having other parents that you can rely on, because one of the things that's really hard when you have kids who have chronic disorders is that keeping friends and keeping community and keeping people in your life can be really, really hard. And so that's one of the pieces that we'll talk about as well, as might be a challenge area, is that the impact on relationships can be very real. And whether it's your relationship with a co-parent, or it's your relationship with yourself, or relationship with family, and, everything, it can be really, really challenging.
Yeah, and I think that fits in beautifully with like something that you highlighted, the struggle to manage what is expected of them.
Yeah.
And I think that she was talking about the child, there's a struggle to manage what's expected of them. But I would say too that there's a struggle for parents to also manage what's expected of them.
Oh my goodness. Absolutely.
And as you get to be an adult, like not only do you have, as an adult with a complex issue, not only do you have to struggle, not only do you have to manage what's expected of you, but now you have to manage what's expected of your parent, of you, right? Like there's a double-edged sword. Like there's the adulting, how you parent yourself, and also how like you actually act as so it's just like, and it's no wonder, like if you make it to 18, you make it past, like you're doing amazing. And like,
yes,
if your kid is there and like, just, I don't want to be macabre, but like if your kid's alive, like it's a big fucking deal.
Yeah. I told a friend of ours that, her youngest has very severe ADHD, and was in a situation at school that just wasn't good for them. And they had gotten targeted at this point. And it reminded me a lot of your school situation. I don't know if you have talked about that too much on this podcast, but I think it would be worth talking about a little more in our next one, of just kind of what you went through, because there was a point when I remember coming home from college and being very, very worried. And I think you're exactly right. Them being connected to you and them being alive is the most important thing, and everything else, can wait. It can wait till they're developmentally ready to deal with it, or might not need to make the list. Maybe it's a should that needs to be sloughed off and let go, so but them being there with you is important.
That's how hard our society is. So like when we talk about like what's expected of them, like let's expect them to be alive. I expect you to be alive and here, and like, and just be yourself. And then like everything else we can kind of work on. Yeah. Because anything more, if we talk about things being twice as hard, when you put an expectation on a kid that's not from them, it's not only twice as hard, it's twice as powerful of an expectation. So like if you're giving them a 10-pound weight to hold on to, it's not only difficult, twice as hard for them to hold on to it, but it feels like 20 pounds.
Yeah.
So it's such an important thing that like we keep talking about this, and that's why, you know, we can go 88, 89. Like that's why we keep
it doesn't end.
It doesn't end. Sorry, guys.
Other people may be sick of hearing us, but we're not sick of talking about it. You know, I mean,
No.
and I don't mean sick, but like, you know, it isn't that every single episode has a golden nugget of anything specifically. But I think what we found through the process, and I shouldn't say we, what I have found through the process is having these conversations and staying curious about it. It keeps me evolving and allowing myself to make mistakes, but then, you know, go, okay, well, let's talk about that. That's interesting. Why did that happen that way? As opposed to like, it's final and it's done. And she does talk about that in the second chapter. So I'll bring that in now just a little bit of thinking of this as a marathon, that this isn't about like, you're going to get the sprint done and figure it out and it's all going to be taken care of, that this thing is going to continue on, and that the goal of it isn't really to be to figure it all out, but just to know that this is going to be an ongoing process, and it's okay. Wherever you're at is okay, and you will be okay, and your kid will be okay as long as you stay connected to the kid and you keep that relationship. So keeping that relationship to ourselves and our inner child is super important. I know you've done a lot of work on that. And I know that that is the same with any biological kids or adopted kids or foster kids or step kids or anybody that you're involved with, that you're part of their village. Say it again. Fur babies.
Fur babies, fur kids.
Yeah. Super important.
And, you know, for me, talking about it, you know, you mentioned these golden nuggets, and yeah, they're, you know, the internet and like YouTube shorts and TikToks and all of them, they're filled with golden nuggets. Like there's a lot of great information, but like you can't, our brains cannot process a nugget that quickly. It takes time, and these longer form content of just showing up and just listening and just talking and just, you know, being so open about it. It really is about destigmatizing and just slowly chipping away at this societal expectation. What's expected of us, we're going to slowly chip away at it and just decide what's expected for us, what we expect for us.
Yeah, what we value. Absolutely. Well, thank you for talking to me today.
Thanks for talking to me too. I love you lots.
Love you. Bye.
Okay. Bye. Thanks for listening to the Spicy Brain Podcast, brought to you by Spicy Brain Studios. We just finished our latest episode, delving into the book, The Essential Guide to Raising a Complex Kid by Elaine Taylor-Klaus. Next week, we'll tackle the remaining challenge areas, which is logistics, what happens when routines get broken, and relationships, including how they can impact family and siblings. And we'll get to those, that is, if I don't completely derail us with the first tangent. No promises. Be sure to follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast app, and if you're enjoying the show, leave us a review. It really helps other neurospicy folks find us and find their way here too, which has actually been happening, guys. It's so exciting. Hello and welcome to all of you new people. But until then, here's to a great end of the week. Remember to stay curious
and joyful.
And remember, keep that radical acceptance kick strong. High kick. So dumb.
I love it.